Good evening and welcome to the May Planning Commission meeting. Do we have a roll call?
Yes, good evening, Chair Moyer. Commissioner Van Antwerp.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Vice Chair Benefield.
Here.
And Chair Moyer.
Here.
And Commissioner Lefevers let us know earlier today that he would not be here today.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't think I want to do that.
Do we have any presentations, announcements, or introductions?
Chair Moyer, I have two that I wouldn't mind sharing here. First up is to let the community and your commission know that later this week on Thursday, May 7th, we'll be kicking off the environmental impact report process for the general plan and coastal land use plan update. So as you know, we've started work on the general plan update going all the way back to 2016, 2017. Got stalled out there for a couple of years during COVID and picked up recently in the last 2 years. And the next step in that process is to prepare an environmental impact report that would look at the potential impacts of the land use map changes and land use policy changes contemplated in the general plan update. And so that process will start with the release of what's called the notice of preparation this Thursday on May 7th, and that will initiate a 30-day public comment period that'll run through Friday, June 5th. And the intention of that 30-day comment period is for folks to let us know what sort of issue areas to take a look at in the environmental impact report, consider project mitigation measures or project alternatives that they might want us to take a look at as part of that EIR. And during that 30-day public comment period, we'll also be holding a public scoping meeting. And that'll be an opportunity for folks to get an overview of not only the general plan itself, but also what the EIR process looks like. And it's another opportunity for interested citizens to give us verbal feedback or written comments on what they want us to take a look at in that environmental impact report or EIR for the general plan update. That scoping meeting will be held here in the council chambers on Monday, May 18th at 5:30 p.m. It'll also be broadcast on Zoom. And later this week, once that notice of preparation goes live, we'll have all the information on the general plan update project page, which if you go to the city's homepage, which is carpinteriaca.gov, and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the homepage under hot topics, you want to just take a look for the coastal land use plan, general plan update button. And later this week, once that information goes live, you'll find links right here on this page to the notice of preparation and the additional materials related to the EIR kickoff. So again, that process will start Thursday, May 7th of this week and run through June 5th, and public scoping hearing will be Monday, May 18th at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chamber. While we're on the city website, I also just wanted to mention to your commission that we recently launched a housing law FAQ, or frequently asked questions page. And the intention of this, again, was to help folks learn a little bit more about some of the state housing laws that apply to the various housing projects that come before your commission and or the city council. And so again, if we're starting at the city homepage, head right back down to the bottom there under the hot topics and click on the housing button in this case. And down on the left-hand side here, Housing Law FAQs. If you click on that link, it'll open up a new page, and we've got some introductory questions related to housing law, housing element, and the city's regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA. And if you click on any of those drop-down buttons, you'll get some bulleted points that gives you more information about those housing laws and links to where you can find more information on the various state laws. So this is something new that we just got launched earlier in April, And we'll be continuing to build it out as we get feedback on either questions that we're hearing from the community that they want answered, or new laws that get passed by the legislature that we feel are important enough to include here on the FAQ list. But again, this is another kind of educational and outreach resource to provide to the public to help educate folks on kind of what's going on related to housing here in Carpinteria. And that's it for introductions and announcements from me.
Thank you.
I
And,
think that's a really good idea.
yeah, I think it's great. It's good for us, too.
Add one thing that I don't understand too well is compliance. What does that mean in terms of the general plan? Because people don't know. I mean, we're not in compliance, or we are. I don't know if we are or not. But if we're not, they can do the builder's remedy, right?
Commissioner Benefield, I think you were referring to a time when we were not in compliance with our housing element had yet to be certified, but that has since passed. We've been certified for now well over a year, and we've closed the window on the period during which we were susceptible to builder's remedy applications. So we did get a couple in during the period when we were vulnerable to them, but that window has since been closed.
Good.
What are those two?
It's the proposed housing project next door on the Tea Time property, otherwise known as the farm residences. And then the other one is the proposed apartment complex on Ogun at the Frontier Communications Building.
Great, thank you. Ready to move on? The consent calendar, there isn't one, so we'll pass that. Yeah. Oh, that comes first. Now's the time. This time on the agenda provides an opportunity for the public to address the Planning Commission on items within jurisdiction of the Commission and not listed on other sections of the agenda. Please limit comments to no more than 5 minutes, depending on the number of speakers wishing to make comments. The chair may further limit the time available to each speaker to control the amount of time spent. And I have 2 people. The first is Alan Koch.
It's on. Good. Good evening, planning commissioners, staff, and members of the public here. Tonight, I did send an early email in to the commissioners and the general public comment email address. I want to make some main points tonight, and it's great that I have 5 minutes. That's a little bit more than what we have at the council meeting. The main points, this is involved the Surfliner Inn project, okay? And what I'm trying to wrap my mind around on the project is the fact that there are 2 phases to this project. There's phase 1 in the sense of implementation phases to build a new parking lot. And then once you have that parking lot there, then you can start construction on the Surfliner on parking lot 3. So over the past several years in my involvement here, I believe I have come up with what I'm going to be calling a definitive and decisive major conclusive finding, okay? And this is a draft description, something that I'm going to be probably working on over the next several months. We'll bring forward to the Planning Commission and the City Council. So here's a first draft. The city's proposed lot number 4 is not a viable option for a downtown and beach replacement public parking lot. That's pretty much the umbrella on that. So just to kick it off in the sense of background, the conceptual plan that is currently in the Surfliner project, that evolved with the Public Works Department putting together the Walker study. I think it was back in 2019 was a study. And now they're coming forward with specific plans to implement recommendations from that. Okay, and that was selected independent of the hotel applicant. The hotel applicant, they're involved in it, but they're involved in it in the sense of funding it and building it. But if you put the hat on, the applicant is really the Public Works Department. So I think that's a distinction that needs to be understood by this decision-making body. Okay, so that's one point there. The other sort of point is that we've gone through two steps of the process so far: the ARB and the draft EIR. Just some observations there around that. The ARB gave it a preliminary approval of the Surfliner Inn back in December of '24, including a comment on further study. Okay? The staff led the discussion around the structure of the hotel, but not really the lot number 4. I mean, the only structure there was the relocation of the new restroom. The ARB completed the deliberation of the review, and there's minutes of the meeting there, which includes the comment on further study of parking lot 4. So there was really nothing done, except the staff report had a whole section there about parking and traffic. So that was kind of confusing. Now we come back to the draft EIR. And public here gave 2 comments: the notice of preparation period, I can't remember, June of last year, and now the draft EIR. And in the report, there's a section called Transportation, Environmental Impacts. We had an environmental review committee chaired by the director of the Community Development Department, Nick, and it was heavily attended. There was a lot of discussion there, and there was some confusion there about the traffic also. But if you read some of the article from the Coastal View News around that, there was speaker after speaker describes the parking lot for proposed access as hazardous because of the proximity to the rail crossing, heavy pedestrian activity near the spot restaurant, and the mix of bikes, cars, and visitors. And that's a CVN staff article. And what was sort of a little bit interesting there at the same time was, going back to my previous comment, that the Public Works is, in my view, the applicant of parking lot 4. The Public Works director sat on the Environmental Review Committee. And we got the minutes of the meeting today from Mindy Fogg, the principal planner. And that was a little bit just, I don't know, awkward, strange. I'm not sure how to really put it there, but the city is the applicant there. The city is reviewing it through the EIR process, and we have the applicant director there sitting there. And when you look at the minutes of the meeting, he had no questions. That's okay. Conflict of interest is too strong. I'm just sort of getting a conclusion here that during these first 2 phases, the transportation impact of lot number 4, primarily on Linden, and the design of that lot is still outstanding. But there's going to be help. Quote from Mindy, staff would take a harder look at the transportation discussion and intended to bring more traffic and parking calculations valuation to the Planning Commission.
Alan, you're up against 5
Okay,
minutes.
so again, I'm just making some observations here on that. That the staff has a lot of work to do to complete the actual, to get a final EIR to you all for certification. And I think the last we heard is probably not until the end of the year here Thank you for the time. Appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, shit. Leslie Gasloan. Is that-
Gascoigne.
What?
Gascoigne.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That's easy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm kind of piggybacking on what Alan was talking about. I'm Leslie Gascoigne, and I'm here tonight because this microphone won't stay down. I believe the Surfliner and DEIR is incomplete and insufficient. It does not address several issues that were commented on during the NOP process and at the ERC meeting on February 18th, 2026. And I sent all of you Planning Commission members a copy of my comments on March 1st, 2026, and I resent them earlier today, so hopefully you got a chance to read them. Here's a brief summary of my transportation comments regarding parking and safety issues. 1, a new comprehensive traffic and parking study is necessary to explore other options and mitigate assumptions that all of the transportation impacts are Class 3 impacts, which means less than significant. 2, Section 3.14.3 of the DEIR's thresholds of significance should be reexamined due to proposed parking lot number 4's awkward location, poor design, and the single ingress-egress onto busy Linden Avenue. 3, the potential for increased hazards and inadequate emergency response is huge due to proximity to railroad tracks, heavy pedestrian and bicycle traffic, and location within a tsunami zone. 4, with the increase in nearby food and beverage establishments, a loss of parking is inevitable, especially for beachgoers in the summer. Under the Coastal Act, public access to the shoreline is a protected right, and any development typically requires a coastal development permit. In addition, Amtrak launched a new expanded commuter service today. Loss of parking may negatively affect its success at reducing congestion on Highway 101. Thank you for listening.
And we have one more. Nathan Pratt. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted to talk about, I attended the Environmental Review Committee meeting, and I think there's a conflict of interest here that needs to be addressed. I'm not sure if it's a city council meeting, city council issue, or a planning commission issue, but to have members of staff on the board that's approving their own report that they wrote or sponsored the writing of seems like a direct conflict of interest. 2 of the 4 people that were at the meeting were city employees. Your public works person, you had Nick there. I just think that they should not be voting members of any committee that's approving any report that the city puts out. If the city's going to put out a report, that's fine, but the people reviewing that report should be independent from city staff. So I think that any approval of any report by that group should be revoked and should be reviewed, and you should get new members to make it a totally volunteer review committee. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question to staff. Do these comments get read into the record in terms of the EIR process?
Thank you for that, Chair Moyer. So we do make note of these comments, and they become part of the minutes, and we can, work to make them part of the record for the Surfliner Inn project when that comes before your commission.
So, how do these citizens become part of the discussion about the EIR approval, or how it's written?
Commissioner Moyer, the next opportunity to do so will be when the EIR comes before your commission along with the project.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Through the chair.
Sure.
2 members of the public commented on concern with the ERC committee. Perhaps it might be an idea for the city attorney to be asked to comment on this so the public understands the process. Thanks.
I will take that under advisement and pass that along to council.
Thank you. We're done with that part. Now we're going to move on to,
Chair Moyer, sorry, just before you do move on, I just wanted to acknowledge for the record, you also received a written comment from Amrita Salm. That would be part of the general public comment.
I will move on to item number 2, Marquez Duplex Addition and Remodel for Unit A.
There's people on Zoom who have their hands raised. For public comment, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. At this time, if you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand and we will allow you to speak. Gary, your microphone is on. Go ahead and speak.
Hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. This is Gary Campopiano. I'm a resident of Carpinteria since 1970. Tonight, I'd like to address some faulty analysis and omissions that appeared in the draft environmental impact report for the Surfliner Inn. I'm concerned about the blocking of significant views of the Santa Ynez Mountains, scenic vistas, and ridgelines. Impact 3.1-1 asks, does the project have a substantial adverse effect on a scenic vista? Faulty analysis number 1. The consultants failed to study the adverse effect on scenic views when story poles were in place. At the notice of preparation meeting, June 21st, 2025, I spoke to this effect and left staff with 4 photographs exhibiting the scenic vista and ridgelines that would be blocked for many walkers, drivers, people waiting for a train, and passengers on the trains. Carpinterians are serious about saving scenic vistas, which are emphasized in our general plan and the land use plan. According to these documents, conservation and open space element, the city supports view corridors and scenic vistas throughout the city. City of Carpinteria staff, 2025. Some local streets provide views of the coastline, Carpinteria Bluffs, and the Santa Ynez Mountains. Local transportation corridors that do not have official scenic designation but are considered by the city to provide scenic views include Linden Avenue from its intersection with State Route 192, Foothill Road, to its terminus at Carpinteria City Beach. Provides both mountain and ocean views. I believe that the consultants erred in classifying this as a Class 3 impact. This is a Class 1 or Class 2 impact and needs to be analyzed. Faulty analysis number 2. The study, in part, relied upon photographs taken from unusual locations and on a day that fog blocked the Santa Ynez Mountains and the ridgeline. Faulty analysis number 3. The photos in the draft EIR do not accurately portray the true impact of the hotel on the visual heritage of our town because of where the photos were taken and the lens used in the camera that was used to take the photos. Where a photo is taken affects how large or small or how far away an object in a photo or rendering appears to be. The lens of the camera also affects this. Faulty analysis number 3. The renderings of this project are not accurate because of the vantage point from where the renderings were made. For example, the rendering looking down 5th Street towards Linden was taken at Elm and 5th. If you walk a half block toward Linden and the hotel blocks everything, including a view of Linden Park. In rendering 3.1-9, the artist or program has fogged in the ridgeline of the Santa Ynez Mountains so that we see gray instead of the mountains as shown in illustration 3.1-11. In rendering figure 3.1-11 showing the linden face of the building from across the street, the vantage point appears to be higher than the average person would see it. The location of where the person was standing appears farther back than a real person could stand. I feel that the draft EIR for the surfliner should reclassify views as a 1 or 2 impact. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Amrita, at this time, your microphone is on. Go ahead and speak.
I'm attaching my comments. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm attaching my comments that I sent in regarding the draft EIR for the Surfliner project, since 5 minutes would not be enough time to cover all the concerns I have about the missing analyses to various sections of the DEIR. The safety issues related to both parking lot number 4 and parking lot number 3, the location of the proposed project, the aesthetic section, the lack of biological analysis, giving no alternative location, removal of mature trees, the inappropriate use of conjunctive parking, ignoring the comments made by ARB members and City Council members at the joint meeting about density of the proposed hotel in lot number 3 at that meeting and other meetings. Please see my comments, especially pages 3 through 5. Hopefully the final EIR will address some of these issues. Unfortunately, the draft definitely didn't answer them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, I think we're done. Are we done?
At this time, there is no public comment.
Great. All right, so now we'll move on to item number 2.
Chair, before we get there, I just wanted to note, since we have a couple of folks in the audience that are interested in item 3, we did get a request just earlier today from the applicant on item 3 asking for continuance. And so I don't know if you want to, just take those out of order to grant that continuance, or if you want to, if the folks that put in the speaker slip on item 3 still want to speak, we can, certainly keep it on the agenda, but I just kind of wanted to put that up there in case you didn't want to sit through a hearing tonight.
Yeah, let's move it. So,
Up to you. So that's,
So do you need a motion for continuance on this?
yes, the applicant
to-
had requested a continuance
And
to
it is
June 1.
to June 1.
Correct.
I so move.
I said, all in favor?
Aye.
It so passes to June 1st.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we'll take care of it. You bet. You too, Pat. So now we'll move on to number 2, the Marquez duplex addition and remodel for Unit A. And we have a staff report, Cindy?
We do. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This is a project that most of you saw back in December of 2022, but some circumstances occurred during construction, so we are back before you again for a revision to the conditional use permit. So the original Unit A is an 847 square foot unit with an attached 2-car carport. The revised project includes reconstruction of the entire existing 847 square foot unit in the same footprint, plus the previously approved 258 square feet bedroom and bathroom addition, and then the new front entry porch, which was structural alterations to the front of the house. And as I mentioned, the prior project was approved by your commission on December 5th, 2022. A building permit, number 14153, was issued on September 4th of last year for that initial scope of work, for basically the addition to the house and then some structural modifications and alterations to the interior and exterior. On September 23rd of last year, during construction, right, everything starts with the foundation. So they shored up the framing of the house, and they were lifting it to redo some of the foundation and pour some new footings. And when they did that, the house was built in 1949, so it's nearing the end of its economic life. Some of the framing started to lean, so we got a call from the neighbor saying, "Hey, the house is leaning." So the building inspector immediately went out there and put a red tag and marked it unsafe until the structural engineer could go out. The structural engineer went out. He looked at everything, all the existing, framing, the joists and the walls and all the connections and whatnot, and determined that it was suited for a demo and rebuild. So the structural engineer made the call during construction that some of those members were not adequate to carry on. And that gets us to why we're here today, for the conditional use permit revision, to reconstruct the portions of the existing unit which are considered legal nonconforming now, because about 143 square foot of the existing 847 square foot cottage is in the front yard setback, which you'll see more information of in just a second. And then just to recall, this is what the house that used to be there. It is now, you drive by now and you see the green fencing in the construction occurring. And here's the site plan. So it is a front house, back house situation. So the blue is the existing 847 square foot duplex with the 200 and something, 258 square foot addition. This is the existing carport. Back here, this gray is the back unit that was constructed in the 80s. It's a 2-story back here. The red line is the setbacks, and the green line is your property lines, the current setbacks in red here. So you can see that this is the little part of the house right now that is within the currently required front yard setback, that is the subject of the conditional use permit revision to reconstruct this portion of the house in the front yard. And if you look at the site plan, you can see this is a shared driveway with the property next door. So this area here is a drive aisle, and then for ingress and egress to these garages, and then the backup and turnaround as well. So there's nowhere else to really reconstruct it on the site. So that's why we're asking to be just retain the existing footprint, because there's no place on the site that's not in the setbacks that would be feasible for this one. And then here's the proposed floor plan, just a little more focused version. This yellow area is the portion of the house that is in the front yard setback. This blue outline is the footprint of the existing cottage, which is going to be reconstructed, pending the revision gets approved, of course. And then this red here is the area, the addition that was previously approved by your commission. And previously also, for the remodel of the main part of the house, your commission did approve, the structural alterations in this area and the creation of this new little entry porch here in this area. And then basically this is an exercise to show you that nothing's going to change on the elevations. But there were a couple changes in between when the project went to the ARB, and then it came to you for a decision in December 2022. And then before we could approve the building permits, it had to go back to ARB for final. And in that, there were a couple comments from the ARB to add stone around the base just to break up the elevation. And then they wanted these 2 front windows to be more symmetrical. So this is what you looked at back in December 2022, and this is what's before you today, but this includes the ARB's comments from before. So the windows are now symmetrical, and they have the cobblestone base around. And then again, essentially the same, just with the cobblestone base. West elevation, essentially the same, with the cobblestone base. And the rear, which you really can't see because the
back units in the way, but you can see this little part, which essentially has not changed. Colors and materials are still proposed to be the same, with the blue trim and then cream windows and trim and dark gray roof. And then here's the renderings. Again, also did not change from the prior approval because they're just proposing to rebuild the original cottage as in the same exact footprint as it was before, per this prior approval. There's these revisions, the renderings. And we didn't do a big policy analysis in the staff report for this one because we referenced the policy analysis from the prior approval because all the same policies still apply to this project. So we've got our land use element to encourage remodeling and revitalization in neighborhoods, objective CD2 from the community design element that architectural designs based on historic regional building types should be encouraged. Main entrances to homes should be oriented to the street. The house, initially the front door was off to the side, so this project actually made the front door be at the front of the house, moved it over to the front. And then the low walls, low fences, and hedges should be encouraged along the frontages. Right now, the little picket fence is proposed across the front of the house now to enhance. And then there's that covered entry facing the street per that policy. And so we're still, a non-conforming, legal non-conforming structure. So we have the conditional use permit findings that have to be made for the continuation or upgrading the residential unit or units will not have an adverse effect on the surrounding neighborhood. The habitable capacity of the unit or units will not be increased beyond that previously existing. And the shortage of adequate housing within the city justifies the continuation of the nonconforming use and authorization to make improvements necessary to upgrade the living conditions in the unit or units. And staff feels that these findings can be made. And we have the following options and recommendations, and staff's recommendation is number 1, to adopt the resolution PC 26003 and approve the project.
Thank
and
you,
that
Cindy.
concludes my presentation.
Now we'll move to commissioners' questions.
Just a easy one. How did we vote in 2022? And was it unanimous?
I believe so. Let me check. I
Yeah,
put it in the
it
staff report.
I remember that many thousand years back.
It was unanimous.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed.
Do you have any questions?
Yes,
No?
5-0.
So now,
I believe we have a, well,
oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Chair Moyer. Typically, we would invite the applicant or their representative to speak first if they would like to.
Would the applicant like to speak? No. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you, Commissioner Moyer and the rest of the commission and staff. I did review this back in 2022, I think. I was a newly minted ARB member at the time. I missed the first meeting and I attended the second meeting. I've sort of developed a lot of thoughts about these kinds of cases since then. While I support the project and don't intend to disrupt the process, I do want to make some observations and point a few things out because this is just yet another emblematic, situation of nonconformance in Old Town and the kind of snowball effect that occurs. So a few observations. One is the work is ongoing and substantially complete with respect to the issues that you're facing. So the project just moved on, which, that's, I'll just leave that as an observation. The other observation is that the structural integrity that led to this, the situation that you're deciding on was cited several times in the staff or the project, the street files for both the existing house and the house next door. So these have been deteriorating for some time, and it was acknowledged by inspections, both at change in escrow, change control back in the early 2000s and prior to that. So it just seems odd to me that you proceed that far along knowing that, you got a project that isn't going to work. And we've seen that in several cases recently. So the notion of approving a significant project that requires, structural integrity to be in place, to make additions, to, do these different things, sort of leaves the dilemma. If it doesn't work, what do you really do? In this case, we're allowing it to continue with a complete rebuild. And I don't think that's the intent. Those kinds of, in my view, those kinds of like-for-like policy decisions are really, really geared around natural disasters. The flood conditions that we had in Montecito and other places, those were all instituted to allow people to rebuild as a result of damage, not because of aging. And the mistake of not understanding the aging by the time it occurs in the development process. The other thing is that this project, like others we've seen in downtown, relies on easements. There's a shared driveway that has apparently a reciprocal easement between the two neighboring properties. Those two properties were developed by the same person. If you look back at the history of the recorders and the deeds, those two properties were built at the same time in 1949, and the additions, the two-story additions on both of those lots were done at the same time by the same owner. And it brings to light the other thing that's been pointed out a number of times is that in the mix in there somewhere, it changed from single-family zoning to multifamily zoning. But the record doesn't show that it ever got a development approval for a multifamily configuration on these two lots that rely on an easement agreement between the two that doesn't show up in the deeds that I've been able to find. So again, I think it's a bit of a snowball effect, of the intent is to accommodate, property rights and what people want to do on their property. Certainly support that, but it's the oddness of these nonconformances and the sequencing of these decisions that we make that I think leaves, the consequences are different than the intentions, I guess is what I would say. So yet another, Carpinteria-ism on the conflict of zoning and development. So thanks.
Thank you. Else that would like to speak? Do we have anybody online?
At this time, if you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand and we will allow you to speak. At this time, Chair Moyer, there are no public comments.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the commission for deliberations. Who would like to start?
I'm happy to start. I don't have much to say, but is it true that they continued to build this even without the permits and the approvals?
Through the chair, because the owner was fearful of losing her contractor if they absolutely just stopped work, Nick agreed to let them, and with the building inspector's, input, of course, agreed to let them continue construction at risk until we had this hearing to secure the approval of the new design. So yes, they've been proceeding with construction, but it's at risk. And it was described as finished, but it's very far from being finished. But they do have the plywood up on the sides now and the framing.
Thanks, Cindy.
No. Comments?
Just, Cindy and Nick, if you can, I think Patrick brought up a couple of good points. Not to stall this project at all, but in regards to Patrick's comments, what can we do to how could we have changed the outcome?
Through the chair, Commissioner Van Antwerp, this has come up a few times on, past projects that find themselves in this kind of situation, right, where the scope inadvertently grows during construction, what starts out as a remodel or addition turns into a full rebuild. And we've tried over the years to identify some of those situations up front and ask for more information as part of the initial review, right? To ask for an assessment from a structural engineer or an architect to say, right, show us that the structure is actually sound and that it can stay standing. Sometimes we've succeeded in getting that information, sometimes we haven't. Ultimately, it's at the applicant's risk, right? And so if they say, I'm doing a remodel and I'm moving forward, and then they end up in a situation like this, right, then the recourse is to bring it back before the commission and seek a permit revision for essentially a different project. So I mean, that is the fail-safe here is that, right, if they exceed their scope, then it triggers a rehearing of the project. We try to head those off where we can, but we can't always do so, either because we just can't tell from, kind of a windshield survey that the house has bad bones, or we're running into some resistance or reluctance by an applicant to go and do an extensive, structural assessment of a property, and it's not something that, is technically listed in our application requirements that we can demand, right? So we can ask for it, but we can't demand it. And so there's kind of this delicate balance there of trying to work with folks, to anticipate when these sorts of things might come up, but we don't always have an opportunity to find them or identify them before they happen. I think in this case, this was one that we did not anticipate ending up in this kind of situation, so I don't believe we asked for any kind of structural assessment ahead of time.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I think I'm just mainly concerned about safety features, like sprinklers, things like that.
Right, so
I'm for this project.
In these situations, when the scope increases, right, in a case like this, the project has to then be brought up to current code requirements in terms of things like fire sprinklers and structural safety. So ultimately, what gets rebuilt is a safer product that meets current safety and building standards.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It's hard to really assess the structure because it's covered, and who knows? You could take one section of the stucco or siding off one section, and it looks good, and then 2 feet down, there's nothing left. So it's really hard to make an adequate assessment. I think this is a sad tale, because there's a lot of residences in Carpinteria that are just like this. I've been riding around looking and making my own little assessments of places, and there's really quite a few of them that would fall into this. And then, they put the money into rebuilding this house, which is a small beach town cottage. It's just like textbook, and I applaud them on that. I applaud them for saving this house and really doing their part to keep this a small beach town community, and there's going to be a lot of this. We got to rejuvenate our housing stock. It's just paramount important. So if we have a motion, we can get out of here.
Well, not for the reason that I want to get out of here right away, but because I do support the project moving forward for all the reasons that have been discussed, and certain it was a great disappointment to run into the problem we ran into, but I'm glad we're moving forward. So, Cindy, could I have the proposed motion up on the board so I can refer to it? Thank you. I move that we adopt Resolution PC 2603, approving Project 20-2057 CUPR CDP to allow the reconstruction of legal non-conforming duplex unit and the proposed 250-foot 8 square foot addition, accept the CEQA addition, and adopt the findings for approval in Exhibit 1, Attachment A, and conditions of approval in Exhibit 1, Attachment C.
Second. All or matter, roll call.
Commissioner Van Antwerp,
Approve.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benefield,
Aye.
and Chair Moyer.
Aye,
Motion carries 4-0.
good deal.
Just one thing. You say 1949 like that was a long time ago.
You know, when I was practicing my presentation, I was like, people are gonna get offended, but
Yeah.
the life of a structure is around 80 years.
Oh, I'm doomed.
Structures, not people.
So, now moving on to other business matters presented by commissioners. No? Director's report?
Thank you, Chair. In your director's report this evening, you have I think the agenda is supposed to say the calendar for the month of May. And then you have the planning activity report and the building permit activity reports for the month of April. I do have a couple of items on there I wanted to highlight for you, if you'll indulge me for a few minutes. On the Via Real Townhomes residential project, recall this is the 96 townhomes proposed at the former Lagunitas mixed-use project site. That application was resubmitted to the city in early April, and it's due for an application completeness determination later this week. From talking to Cindy, it sounds like that application will be deemed complete later this week. And so once that determination goes out, we'll move on to the next step, which is the consistency analysis for that project. Couple updates on the Carpinteria Avenue farm project next door proposed for the Tea Time property. The applicants hosted a community open house event back on April 9th to share their proposed project with the community and to gather community feedback. It's our understanding that it was very well attended with over 150 interested community members there, sharing input and gathering information about the project. And then also regarding the same farm residential project, the City Council awarded a contract to ESA to assist staff in preparation of the environmental impact report. And so we'll be kicking off that effort soon. And I anticipate that we'll be releasing the notice of preparation and holding the scoping hearing on that project probably sometime in June, July-ish. We don't have an exact date yet, but we'll get that out to you as soon as we know it. This is for the farm residences project proposed next door at the Tea Time property, 5885 Carpinteria Avenue. Also wanted to just provide a brief update on the Chevron decommissioning project. Most of the on-site decommissioning activities there are on a temporary pause while Chevron waits for final approval of their soil remediation plan from US EPA. So this is something they've been working on for a little while, but they got farther ahead than the EPA is, so they're kind of stalled out until EPA catches up. In the meantime, they'll be continuing to do endangered species monitoring out there for things like nesting birds and what have you, and making sure that all of their various best management practices and mitigation measures remain in place in the event of a storm or a windy day or anything like that. They'll also be continuing with some of the preparation for the offshore decommissioning work, so you'll continue to see boat activity out there offshore as they're doing survey work on the pipelines and getting ready to do the removal of that work later this year, hopefully. And then also scheduled for potentially the last week of this month, so last week of May, SCE will be out working along the railroad tracks adjacent to the pier parking lot there to replace the power pole over there that's needed to separate power for the pier from the rest of the onshore plant. And so again, tentatively scheduled for the last week of May. Once that date firms up, we'll be sure to let the community know, since there might be a temporary detour for that little section of the trail there that runs between the parking lot and the railroad tracks. over by the Seal Overlook. Also, just wanted to highlight some activity here with some new businesses in the downtown.
May I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Just wondered if there's any estimate or any idea how long EPA may take to reach its conclusion? I assume what they're doing is reviewing the remediation plan that Chevron has proposed.
So we don't know at this time how long it's going to take. Essentially, the piece of the review process that's yet to be completed is some of the consultation with other resource agencies. So EPA in turn has to do consultation with other resource agencies before they can approve the soil remediation plan. And so some of those consultation efforts are still ongoing or have been delayed from occurring.
Any information whether First Nations are involved in that, tribal
Only
organizations?
that one of the consultations that has yet to occur is with the State Office of Historic Preservation. But beyond that, I don't know the nature of why. I did want to highlight some activity in the downtown. This was reported out to the council recently, but we've had a couple of recent business openings in the downtown, including Coyotes Market, which opened at 4945A Carpinteria Avenue, right next door to Limo's. They opened in early April. And then Arnie's Rooftop Bar, which is the second floor tenant at Linden Square, opened just a couple weeks ago. And then we have a couple of additional businesses that'll be opening here in the coming weeks. Those include the Larder, which will be the second location of Field and Fort, which has a restaurant over there in Summerlin. They'll be taking over the former food liaison space in Shepherd's Plaza Shopping Center. Skyhop Coastal Goods, which will be a little retail space, taking over the former Christian Science reading room there next to the Nugget on Linden Avenue. Rincon Rooms, which is the 6-room hotel component of the Klentner mixed-use project, should be opening soon. And then finally, Rincon Design Surf Shop will be making a return to their space on Linden Avenue, and they're targeting an opening by this summer. And then last but not least, I just wanted to share that we're making great progress on our transition to our new online permitting platform. So back in December, the City Council approved a contract for us to work with a company called GovWell to move all of our permitting, so this is building permits, engineering permits, and so on, onto a new web-based platform where folks can apply online, can get issued their permits online, and really kind of pay online. It really streamlines the process for hopefully everybody, for staff and the public. And we've been working with the GovWell team since January, and we've actually got the building permit part of the module up and running now, kind of on a soft trial basis. And so we've been inviting applicants on a kind of a one-on-one basis to apply for their next permits through this software so that we can see how it works, work out the kinks and stuff before we go live with it for everybody. But the team's really excited about it. It seems like it's a big improvement, and so we're looking forward to building out additional permit types eventually, and hopefully by later this summer having all permit types for both planning permits, building permits, and engineering permits all go through this platform by the end of this summer. And that concludes my director's report.
Great, sounds good.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
back to the director's report really quickly. Can you give us an update on the Verizon situation with the county and?
Through the chair, Commissioner Van Antwerp, I haven't heard much. I need to circle back with Verizon and find out how things are going. I know just recently we did have another downtown property owner express interest in possibly hosting the site, so we were going to pass on that information to Verizon. We've had now 2 downtown property owners besides the proposed location at Sushi Terry express interest, and so we've handed off that contact info and tried to make those introductions, but we haven't heard much recently from Verizon.
One of those people evidently was never contacted. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird. Anyway, I have to speak. What do we do?
I suppose you can open up public comment on the director's report and invite Mr. O'Connor up to speak.
Okay. 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, staff and commission. It just came to mind as we're going through the report, the farm project has an interesting sequence underway with the EIR report going on, or EIR work going on before ARB and before Planning Commission review. Not unheard of, but a bit unusual. I think what that intuitively means is it's gonna move along quite a bit in a design context before it moves into that normal process, which is, I think, all warranted just given the complexity and the significance of the project. What I wanted to propose, as a bit of a provocative suggestion, recognizing that it's under builder's remedy and it's limited to 5 public hearings and EIR out of order sort of thing. The provocative thought is combine planning and ARB for the purpose of this project and integrate these reviews to allow a bit more intellectual input without being so time crunched. The thing that kind of spurred the thinking about it is the Verizon project, completely different context, but it had a time limitation on it too. And we burned a lot of that effort in ARB only to find that there was more significant issues elsewhere. So it's a thought, got no idea. I didn't do the homework. I just came up with the idea. Had no idea how you would go about doing that from a, legal or otherwise standpoint. But if you pull us together, I think we can do more. Thanks.
Thank you.
If I may just comment, I think that idea has been floated, and we'll see. The decision isn't with the Planning Commission, of course. So. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we're done. How many
just
people?
Attendance for the June 1st meeting?
June 1st? I'll be here.
I'll be here.
All right, we're all here.
Great, thank you.